Good morning, friends. Today we are going to deal with the poem The Village Schoolmaster by Oliver Goldsmith. So, Oliver Goldsmith was an Irish novelist, playwright, and poet who is best known for his novel The Vicar of Wakefield. He is also known for his pastoral poem The Deserted Village and his plays The Good Natured Man and She Stoops to Conquer. He also wrote an history of the earth and animated nature. He is thought to have written the classic children's tale, The History of Little Goody Two Shoes, the source of the phrase Goody Two Shoes. Objectives. So, the present poem, The Village Schoolmaster, is an extract from his pastoral poem, The Deserted Village. Context of the poem. The poet feels sad and disappearance of an idealistic picture of his native village of Listen. It was deserted as a result of the Industrial Revolution. Main ideas of the poem. Image of a village, and Oliver Goldsmith wrote this poem being influenced by his schoolmaster Thomas Byrne, who taught him couple of years. Students are wise enough to understand the feelings of their teacher by looking his face. Schoolmaster was always serious and well disciplined. Get angry when students fails to study properly. The schoolmaster was an expert not only in teaching but also in simple mathematical calculations, telling the changes in the weather, arguing with the father of the church on philosophical issues. The village schoolmaster. Text. Beside yon straggling fence that skirts the way with blossomed firs unprofitably gay, there in his noisy mansion, skilled to rule, the village master taught his little school. A man severe he was and stern to view, I knew him well, and every truant knew well had the boarding tremblers learned to trace. It was certain that he could write and cipher too, lands he could measure, terms and tides presage, and even the story ran that he could gauge. In arguing too, the parson owned his skill, for even though vanquished, he could argue still. While words of learned length and thundering sound amazed the gazing rustics ranged around. And still they gazed, and still the wonder grew. The day's disaster in his morning face full well they laughed with counterfeited glee at all his jokes, for many a joke had he, full well the busy whisper circling round conveyed the dismal tidings. When he frowned, yet he was kind, or if severe in aught, the love he bore to learning was in fault. The village all declared how much he knew. That one small hat could carry all he knew, but past is all his fame. The very spot where many a time he triumphed is forgot. Let us have a look at the glossary. Yawn, over there, straggling, spread out, skirts, goes round, furs, grass, severe, strict, stem, strict, truant, one who stays away from school without permission, boarding, predicting, trace, mark out, day's disasters, misfortune they have to face on the day, counterfeited glee, pretending joy, dismal, miserable, ought in any degree, cipher, code, secret message, presage, foretell, gauge, measure, vanquish, defeat, rustics, villages. So here we have the explanation of the poem. The village schoolmaster ran his little school in a small village. It was situated next to the irregular fence that fringed the village path with full blossom, beautiful but ornamental firs. He was a very strict disciplinarian. He was familiar to the poet and all other truants because they had endured the master's rage. His face was a thing of careful scrutiny. The students were afraid of him and would gaze at his face to sense his present frame of mind. The day's misfortunes were written on his forehead or in between the eyebrows. The schoolmaster was a contradiction. Although he was stern, he was kind hearted and good humored. He had a store of jokes. When he told them, the children burst out in fake laughter under the pretext that the jokes were awfully hilarious. If the children observed a frown on his forehead, they calculated the gloomy news throughout. The classroom in an undertone, but he was in essence a kind man. If at all he had any fault, it was his intense love for learning. He wanted his pupils to become genuine scholars, and hence he had to be demanding with them. The villagers were unanimous in their opinion that he really was an erudite man. He, without doubt, could write and also work out sums in arithmetic. He could also survey land, forecast weather, and tides. Besides, he was able to measure the content of a vessel. He was master at argument too. Even the parson approved of his skill in debate. Even if defeated, the schoolmaster would keep on arguing. He would become more fervent and would fling becoming words at his adversary. The uncomprehending villagers would be convinced that the schoolmaster was establishing his standpoint very thoroughly. They stood round the two debaters and witnessed the verbal duel. They were awestruck when they heard the high sounding and incomprehensible words used by the schoolmaster. They stared at him and wondered how his small head could hold such an enormous hoard of knowledge. So, here we have multiple choice questions. And you can have a glance over the question and answers given here. This video is prepared by Doddadurugappa, Assistant Professor of English, GFGC Tumakuru. Thank you for watching this video.